And we are back. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Press Cincinnati Sports Fan Podcast. I am your host, Jesse. On this podcast, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. No, they're not playing the MLB postseason, but the Reds finally got their manager. And it was kind of a shocking news that came Thursday night around 10:30. The Reds are hiring Terry Francona, a.k.a. Tito, as their next Cincinnati Reds manager. I did not expect that, to be honest. I really thought the Reds were going to hire Skip Schumacher. I thought the Reds were going to hire bench coach Vinny Benavides, even though he went 0-5 in his Reds had 5 games left in the season. They fired David Bell a week before the season ended, so Benavides had 5 games, and the Reds only won. Actually, the Reds won 1 game. They won the last game of the season against the Chicago Cubs last week. So the Reds decided to go with Terry Francona. He was on my list when I did the podcast when the Reds fired David Bell about a week and a half ago, and Terry Francona was retired because he had health problems and he needed to fix that and just get healed from it. But he has ties to Cincinnati, played for the Reds. He loves the Reds organization, which that's a big statement for him to say that he loves the Reds organization, because you know how I feel about them. But the fact that he wants to come out of retirement and manage this Reds ball club that does have pieces and is still a good team that just needs to be run well and managed well. I couldn't think of a better person than Terry Francona. Unbelievable, right? Because this guy has so much accolades, so much good accolades as well. He's 65 years old. He didn't manage this season after spending the previous 11 years with the Cleveland Guardians. He cited health issues when he stepped down last year and had missed multiple times in his time in Cleveland because of it, including toe and hip surgeries. Francona had shoulder replacement surgery and double hernia surgery soon after the season was over last year. And this is what Francona said when he announced that he was stepping down. I need to go home and get healthy and see what I miss about the game. I don't foresee managing again. Now, like I said, Francona does have ties to the Reds. He played 102 games for the team in 1987. He played parts of the 10 big league seasons from 1980 to 1991. Before beginning his coaching career in the minors, Francona previously managed the Philadelphia Phillies from 1997 to 2000, and then with the Boston Red Sox from 2004 to 2011, where he won 2 World Series titles with them, and then from the Guardians from 2013 to 2023. He was at the helm for the Red Sox 2004 and 2007 World Series titles. Now, the Reds this past season, going into the year, we thought the Reds, after going 82 and 80 last year, that this year the Reds will have to step it up even more, and the expectations were higher. But with injuries and very inconsistent baseball play, the Reds finished the season in 2024 with a 77-85 record. They have not been to the postseason since 2020. I don't really count COVID because it doesn't count, and have not been to the playoffs in a full 162 game season since 2013. Reds don't like talent. They don't. They got Ellie. They got Hunter Green. They're 2 of the best young players in the game, and they got Spencer Steer, Andrew Abbott, CES, Matt McClain. Hopefully he'll be back next year fully healthy. This is the second time in 2 years a franchise looking to transition out of a rebuilding and into contention has hired a Hall of Fame bound manager out of unofficial retirement. Last year, the Texas Rangers hired Bruce Bochy, and he led them to the 2023 World Series championship. Now the Reds have hired Francona and hopes he can do the same. Francona's career manager record is he has 1,950 wins with 1,672 losses. Good for a .538 winning record. He is 13th on the all-time wins list and figures to become the 13th member of the 2000 Wins Club next summer. Francona's teams have won 2 World Series titles, like I said, in 2004 and 2007, plus another pennant in 2016. All right. Big right there. Big right there. And I think that if you're a Reds fan, you should be very excited and hopeful. Now, I'm not saying that hiring Terry Francona means that that solves the Reds' problems and that the Reds are going to make the playoffs and everything is going to be all sweet and good. No, the Reds still need to get better players. They still need to get players that are needed to fill the position of need in the outfield and especially in infield as well, just all over the place. And also, Terry Francona is a manager that will hold players accountable, and David Bell didn't do that here. He was pretty much a player's coach. Terry Francona will not let that fly, meaning that if you're not playing good baseball or if you're not living up to the standard, that you're going to get benched or you might get cut. And that's what I like about Terry Francona. And I think it just makes sense. I think it just makes sense that him having ties to Cincinnati, him playing for the Reds, him knowing the Reds organization, I think he realizes that this team has Ellie De La Cruz, who is a superstar in the making. You still have pieces around this ball club. You don't want to mess that up. And I think Terry Francona probably did watch the Reds this past season, and he was probably thinking to himself, man, I want to have this opportunity to manage this team with this roster. But it's going to start with the Reds having a good offseason. They need to. I think it's a very important offseason for them to get some key pieces on this team around Ellie, around Spencer Steer, around CES, Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott. There's a lot of good players on this baseball team. There really is. I'm not saying that Terry Francona is the fix to the problems, but it's the start. It's the start, and that's what pretty much what all of us Reds fans need. Because as you guys listen to this podcast, I was throughout the season, just very frustrated, just how things are being run with the Cincinnati Reds organization. Okay. I already voiced out my frustrations with the Castellinis and at times with David Bell, but David Bell wasn't the big problem of the Reds organization. It's pretty much them up front. So if I had to say on a scale of 1 to 10 how optimistic I am of the future of the Cincinnati Reds or going into 2025, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I am the most optimistic, 1 being absolutely not, I would say, as I record this podcast on October 4th, 2024, I'm at a 7.5 to 8. Just because Terry Francona is a damn good manager. He led the Red Sox to 2 World Series titles. That franchise, before 2004, had that long tenure of not winning a World Series title, and they finally got over the hump. The Cincinnati Reds haven't won a playoff series since 1995. The Reds haven't won a World Series since 1990. I wasn't alive for the World Series title. I was 3 years old when the Reds beat the Braves in their last playoff series win. It just feels like this hire means that the Reds are done with being just in the middle, not really attempting to be contenders. I think now they're realizing, okay, we got to stop being mediocre and we need to not waste Ellie De La Cruz seasons or years because that's a once in a lifetime type of generation type of player. And you see with the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, as the Bengals drafted him, they realized, okay, we can't mess that up. Now, right now, with the Bengals, it's other things going on, and it deals with ownership. Same thing deals with the Cincinnati Reds. So I think now they're realizing, okay, we can't do this to Ellie De La Cruz. We can't waste that. And also other players around the organization that are really good, that are really young, and they're up and coming. We can't ruin that. So hiring Terry Francona is very important because I think that he's going to get the best out of everyone. And I think Reds fans are going to be really excited to go to Great American Ballpark next season. And for myself, I said that during the year when I was pretty much done with the Reds after they swept the St. Louis Cardinals in the series in August to go one game under 500. And then they had a weekend series against the Kansas City Royals where they proceeded to get swept and destroyed in just pathetic fashion. I was pretty much done with the Reds from their point. From on there, I was already done. Okay. So it's stuff like that where I want this baseball team to be relevant. You see the success of the Detroit Tigers. They came into Great American Ballpark in the beginning of July, I believe 10 games under 500, and then they proceeded to sweep the Reds, and now they are playing in the American League Division Series after sweeping the Houston Astros, a team that before they lost to the Detroit Tigers in the Wild Card Series, made it to the ALCS for 7 consecutive seasons, and the Detroit Tigers snapped that streak. Seeing them have that success, it made me jealous. It really did. It's like, man, I wish the Reds can have a late season run and crash the playoffs and make a deep run in the postseason. That's what the Detroit Tigers are doing. I feel like their talent compared to Reds, it's pretty much even, but they have a good manager in AJ Hinch. And he just got hot at the right time. So that's why when they beat the Astros to go to the business series, I was like, man, am I ever going to see this with the Cincinnati Reds? I was getting depressed. For real. And then Thursday night, when I heard the news that the Reds are going to hire Terry Francona, I was like, let's freaking go. Okay, Reds. You're finally realizing that Reds fans are getting very antsy. Reds fans are tired of losing. Reds fans are tired of their team not being relevant. So you actually did the job of going out there and finding a manager that can manage this ball club with the talent they have. And what perfect way to get a manager coming out of retirement. And you know what's crazy? Terry Francona, last game he managed was against the Cincinnati Reds last season when the Reds and Guardians played in the final week of the baseball season. In that final week, the Guardians beat the Reds to knock them out of the playoffs in the second to last game of the season. How crazy is that? That was Francona's last game. And then a year later, the Reds hire him as their next manager. It's crazy what the universe does. I'm telling you. The baseball gods, the baseball universe, whatever it is. So, I come here as a Reds fan, optimistic, but also the Reds need to do a lot of work in the offseason. They have to. So I will give Nick Kroll some kudos. Just a little mini clap right there. But the job is not done. I'm going to be really, really, really I'm seriously about to be, I don't know what I'm going to say right now, but this offseason, I'm going to be on point on looking what the Reds do. You have to fill the position needs in this baseball club. And I hope that with hiring Francona, they actually do that for real. I didn't expect to make this podcast of the Reds announcing the manager. I really thought the Reds were going to go with Skip Schumacher, which it would have not been a bad managerial choice. It would not been. However, Terry Francona, now that's big. That is big. I didn't think the Reds could have done that. He was like on my bottom list. He wasn't in my top because he was still retired. And he said after last season that he doesn't see himself managing at all. But for the Reds to do this, to hire him, okay, now they're being serious about wanting to win, wanting to contend, and just not being a team that is just, okay, they're going to be there, but then once August and September hit, they're going to be out of contention. No, we're done with that. We're seriously done with that. Enough of that. So that's pretty much it. My brother Matthew, who has been on this podcast during the season, and he's the one that broke the news to me, and he's very excited. He'll be on the podcast next week, and I'll get his thoughts on what he thinks about this hiring of the Reds of Terry Francona. So I'm looking forward to that. After a sad week for the Cincinnati Reds with the passing of Pete Rose, this is what we need as Cincinnati Reds fans of hiring a manager like Terry Francona. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I love you guys. And hopefully this is the start of good times for Cincinnati Reds baseball, because I want to go on this podcast and I don't want to always go into every Red season feeling negative, feeling less optimistic about this baseball team. Now, I'm going to be really clear about this. This hiring doesn't mean the Reds are going to make the playoffs next year, okay? No. The offseason is very important for this team, and I will be on this podcast here and there during the offseason while continuing to do my Bengals stuff. I will do a podcast talking about the Reds offseason if they make any moves, but they have to. They really do, because you got your manager, but now let's fill those positions on this baseball team and upgrade them. Because if they can do that, then the Reds can be playoff contenders next year. So this is just the first step. Let's just continue to take it one step at a time. All right, guys. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, give it a 5-star review. Leave a comment. Greatly appreciate it. Also, big news. Finally created a YouTube channel of this podcast. So follow it. It'll be Deep Press Cincinnati Sports Fan. That's the YouTube channel name. I will post the podcast episodes on that YouTube channel and then clips here and there for like YouTube shorts and stuff. I'm trying to get into the YouTube world and just trying to take it one day at a time with that, because I know a lot of people that have podcasts, they put their podcast episodes on YouTube. So I want to continue to just grow this podcast. So I figured, why not put it on? Why not make a YouTube channel? Why not? All right, guys. Love you guys. I will talk to you guys after the Bengals and Ravens game on Sunday with the Instant Reaction podcast. Good times ahead for Cincinnati sports. Let's just stay positive, okay? All right, I'm out. Peace.